Cool. Well, welcome to high90cast for this week. As always, Erik Hess and Bob Vanderclay.
Afternoon.
So we also have Mark Vanderclay, who's our producer, handling any live requests. So if you got questions, shoot them out on Periscope. Now, Bob, big day. You picked up a shiny new rectangle.
Yep. More of a.
Why don't you tell us about that new MacBook? What do you think?
It's fantastic. I mean, from the reviews, the one thing I was most concerned about, having put a pre-order in before even touching one of these things, was the keyboard. You know, everyone said the keyboard is different, and well, the one thing I noticed from the reviews is no one said it was good.
Yeah, nobody was really like.
At best, they said, "I guess I could get used to this."
Right. Yeah.
And that, that's kind of terrifying. I mean, that's the reason we like our laptops, because it's a real input device.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we got a chance to try it out last week, and I don't know about you, but my experience was actually quite positive. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, we're kind of broken in the sense that for us, we've both become clicky key addicts.
Absolutely.
So whether they actually make the clicky noise or not. I mean, so in that sense, I mean, every non-clicky keyboard is a compromise. Even the very nice, even the very nice MacBook Pro keyboard, or my personal non-clicky keyboard favorite, the Logitech K811,
fantastic,
which
board.
is a great keyboard.
Yeah.
So to me, I sat down and I started typing on this, and it was one interesting thing that everybody was kind of saying was like, "Hey, you can't tell when you've pressed the button." Well, maybe I just typed too hard, but if you have a problem telling whether you've actually like clicked a key on this thing, you got bigger problems.
That's how I felt. I mean, the response was just incredible. I mean, if there's anything, there's a really crisp click.
Yeah.
And Apple said all along, it's not going to have mushy key feel. It's not going to have off-center feel. And they were absolutely right. To be honest, having used it now for the last, day or so, the one thing that does drive me a little crazy is the keys are bigger.
They are bigger. They have this kind of, I don't know. They look wide. It doesn't look like an Apple keyboard, mainly because we're kind of used to the Apple keyboard, and they're big. And the weird escape key, I mean, it's not really that critical, because how often do we hit escape? It's an important key, but it's just a little strange. So the original MacBook's keyboards, I think, were balanced in a really nice way, and these look like somebody was going for balance and it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Like I said, my only problem is it's just a little too big. I feel awkward typing on it for that sense alone, but the feel is fantastic.
No, it's good.
And the size, like I said, it's rare that I've complained that the keys are too big, having gone from many iPod or iPad keyboard to iPad keyboard.
Yeah,
it's different.
This is different.
But I like it a lot, and I can recharge it from a battery, so
that's okay.
That's pretty cool.
There's nothing inherently wrong with different, so that's okay. Well, we've got a pretty cool topic today, I think, and that is jailbreaking.
Yes, one of the benefits of switching back to Apple was getting back in the jailbreaking. I've jailbroken probably pretty much every device that it was capable of.
Yeah, and you were always jailbreaking, even before you switched off and switched to Android. You were jailbroken almost all the way up until the instant you switched off.
Absolutely.
And so for me, my experience has been a little bit less recent, in the sense that I was jailbroken up until maybe my 4S was the last. No, maybe not even that. Maybe it was my 4 was the last one that I really did.
I think that's when the iPhone actually kind of was finished for me.
Yeah. Like finished and complete, or finished and I don't want to play with this anymore?
I'm finished in the minimum viable product sense for me.
Okay, got it. So it was a whole product.
I mean, when the iPhone first shipped, of course, it was revolutionary and everything, but it actually was missing a lot of features that were on smartphones beforehand, apps and GPS and Bluetooth audio and a whole bunch of other things. And I honestly think it was right around 4, that was the first one with Retina, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that for me is feature complete was reached for iPhone.
That makes
sense.
So
I could totally see why.
It was a great one. And I mean, I loved my 4S. It was weird. It was actually, that was the first iPhone that I skipped a generation on. I mean, that was the one where I didn't get a 5. I stayed with the 4S until the 5S came out. And yeah, but you now that you've come back to Apple, you have immediately picked up with, and probably a good thing too, given the availability of jailbreaks, you immediately picked up with jailbreaks on both your iPhone and your iPad, right?
Yep.
So,
the first thing I did when I got that phone was take a look at what OS is on it, because right now I think it's 8.1 is the only jailbreakable version of 8 that we have.
Gotcha.
So immediately checked it. So I was on 8.1 something, was like, yes, immediately.
Nice.
Of course, that's the one I had the problem with the display. So taking it into the store, it was funny. The Apple store guy, was like, well, we could exchange the phone, or you could, swap the display. And, after I made my decision, he's like, yeah, I don't know if you have this thing jailbroken, but then, we wouldn't mess with that. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's also kind of nice when an Apple Store guy actually says, "Yeah, we don't want to mess up your jailbreak," which is kind of cool.
Very awesome.
So okay, so first off, why jailbreak?
For all the reasons that Android, called out to me. It's the ability to fix the things that maybe I just don't disagree with Apple. I mean,
so like what? What are those?
Well, let's. I guess we could walk through it bit by bit. I mean,
let's start with the springboard. So springboard is, that's a phrase that even most Apple iOS users probably aren't even that familiar with. They may have heard it every now and then, but that's the actual term for the launcher, basically, right?
Basically the
home screen.
The home screen, the thing with the little icons on it, the multi pages and folders, and the dock. And before I get too far into specific things, I'll tell you the one thing that has changed for me in jailbreaking between now, which on the 6, and probably the last time I had an iPhone, which was I switched away from the 5.
Right.
Probably midway through the 5, was before I was using a lot of things to kind of replace apps, like a completely replacement lock screen. I think Lock Info was a popular one back then.
Oh yeah, definitely got a lot of use out of Lock Info.
Custom keyboards and stuff. Now I find I'm doing less wholesale replacement and more of just kind of tweaking things, stock things, and we'll talk about like the keyboard.
So it's not so much where before you were fixing the phone, now it's just kind of polishing in your mind.
Exactly. And one of the things that has been really different was, obviously there's some stability issues, when you're playing around with this kind of thing. But once you get it kind of set up, it's a lot more stable than it used to be.
Okay.
I remember always having all sorts of issues with a jailbroken phone, which is fine. I'm used to that. But I don't know. I feel like now it's a lot more stable.
Okay. And Mark wanted to make sure that we use the proper terms for showcase and swipe selection are technically two of the terms. Those are unfamiliar terms to me, but he's making sure that we don't completely mess this up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We will definitely be talking about those.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. So the springboard. There's two things that bother me about the springboard. One, the icon grid. The 4x5, I think, is standard.
Yeah.
And whether you have a 6 or a 6 Plus, you just get bigger icons. And
I know.
I want the bigger phone because I want more screen, but I'd like to take advantage of that.
Okay.
So the tool I use for that, there's a whole bunch of them. A home screen designer is probably the most popular of the custom layouts.
Okay.
I use a program called Springtomize, which does a whole bunch of different things. But one of the things, you can adjust the rows and columns and size of icons.
So, okay, got it. So, yeah, basically you can fit more on. You can make icons different sizes.
Yep. Just a wholesale scaling.
And then Android...
I want them all 80%, and I want a 5x6 grid, say, on the home
Nice.
screen.
Okay, so, and Android style, that also allows you to, like, not... You aren't forced to have everything slide into the top left corner, basically?
That is something else.
Okay, so it does not solve that problem.
It does not solve that problem. And that's problem 2 for me. The whole, my icons start at the upper left and just keep stacking, left to right, top to bottom.
Well, and this isn't just a geek concern. I mean, we've seen, I know I've seen friends of ours, who usually have pictures of their kids or their family, and they may have like 4 icons on each page because they don't want to cover up the picture of their kids. They just leave them all at the top. But like, there's space at the bottom that they might have used if they were able to, say, shape their icon layout around their background.
That's a perfect use case. Yeah. And for I'm always been a two-handed phone user, but for a one-handed phone user, I would probably want my icons stacked up from say the bottom right or the
Yeah.
bottom left.
I mean, that was it. That was how my last Android lock screen, I basically had everything in it. I am a one-handed phone user, and I hold it in my right hand. So for me, a backwards L centered on the bottom right-hand corner of my phone, that's the ideal swipe space. And in our new larger screen phones, the top left might as well not be there for me. Now, as a two-hand user, that's completely different, but that's kind of how I came out.
So right now, I think the app I'm using is called Anchor. Which allows you to kind of put icons wherever you want.
Okay, so Anchor basically allows you to put icons wherever you want. What other tweaks are you using for dock, home screen, stuff like that?
There's a couple things I use. Let's see here. Mobius is an app that rather than you swipe back and forth pages, when you get to the last one, you just keep swiping to the right, and it makes a big loop of your home screen pages.
Oh, okay. So basically, it's a loop. It's not.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of nice. That's handy.
Just simple little things.
Cool. Okay. So what are your after those tweaks? What are your next? What are your next most useful things? So like anything with notifications, anything with Notification Center.
I do a lot of things with the Notification Center. One of the big gaps is coming from Android was the ability to have a clear all notifications button.
Yeah, boy, do I miss that. Holy cow.
So I use something, I think it's called, what was that? Notification Killer.
Okay.
And that just lets you go ahead and I think you long press on the little notification tab at the top. And,
okay.
And then it just clears all of them.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Just by nature of the iOS notifications, they tend to stack up a lot of them.
Yes. Boy, do they ever. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything. And clicking on the little X's is not fun. And
no,
swiping
it's by category, and you have to double tap each X.
And they're tiny little X's.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like you can just swipe it away with one swipe. I mean, that's kind of the Android model. Now you just swipe it and it goes away. Like even if you weren't using the swipe away all notifications button, it's a one-step process to get a notification to go away. Where on iOS, you either tap the tiny X or you've got a two-step, because I think in order to swipe an individual notification away, you got to swipe and tap, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a tap to dismiss.
Yeah. Okay. So you got that. Okay. Well, what about like Control Center or anything like that?
So regarding the control, two parts about the Control Center. One, I was never happy with the choices of things that Apple put on it. The calculator just never made much sense to me.
Right.
I get it, but I'm just still kind of shocked they didn't let people put 4 apps down there. Pick 4 apps and I can put
like a bonus, kind of like a bonus dock.
Exactly. So I use something called, what is that called? I think I have a list. You have that for me. Polis. Yes, Polis lets you change both the toggles at the top and the shortcuts, the quick launch at the bottom.
Got it. Okay.
And you can, add more than, I think, what is it by stock? 5 toggles at the top and 4 quick launches at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And so it lets you kind of tweak that number. It lets you, swipe and have multiple pages of them. We'll talk about Activator later, but you can set Activator actions. Lets you change kind of just the look and feel. So, I put things in like settings. Settings, I always want settings available for that.
Yeah, I mean, Control Center in itself is an interesting. It's an interesting kind of space on your phone. I definitely think that. I mean, the first time we saw little buttons across the top to control Wi-Fi and stuff like that was when we were using some of the early Jailbreak.
Yes.
Apps, and Android pretty much had that. Maybe not from the start, but after a little bit, they were able to get some Notification Center type thing. So it's great. I just wish it was more discoverable.
Yep. The other thing I have, I use an app. I think it's called Uniformity, which lets you kind of just tweak the coloring and transparency of it. And this ties into the app switcher. Is an app called OXO 3.
Okay, so for App Switcher, that's basically when you double tap on the home button, what happens?
Yeah. You get the list of apps and you can switch between them or swipe to dismiss.
So OXO 3, what does that do for you?
The thing I like most about it is it combines the app switcher with the control center.
Oh,
So rather, when you double tap or swipe up from the bottom, it brings up a control center at the bottom and then a smaller version
that's
of the
useful.
app switcher. Yeah,
That's really useful.
it's one of my favorite things. I mean, it's just
Because I mean, how many apps do you have where it's essentially impossible to bring up a control center because they have controls all along the bottom, and if you swipe up from the bottom, you're going to hit one of those controls. Google Play Music is probably the worst offender that I run into on a regular basis, where I'm trying to swipe up from the bottom, and I find myself just engaging one of the controls
something
down
in the
there.
app. Yeah.
And it's like, so rotation lock, I mean, is the one thing that I go there most often for, because I keep my rotation lock to portrait unless I'm watching a video on my phone.
Exactly.
And so
there's a jailbreak for that.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm sensing a trend here. So let's talk about lock screen stuff.
Lock screen was one of those things that I used to jailbreak all the time.
Right. I mean, lock info was, getting to-do list and calendar items on my lock screen was like key for me at one point, and I still deeply, deeply miss it.
And the truth is, I don't miss it as much. I mean, Apple definitely has made great strides in the notification center. I mean, the fact that we actually have a notification center now is new.
It's a great start. And accessible from the lock screen, which is nice.
And accessible from the lock screen. Now there's widgets. And again, I've solved the clear all notifications thing. So in fact, I think there may actually be a version of lock info for current. I actually have no idea, but I haven't looked into that. There's a lot of tweaks now to add HTML widgets on it. I think Lock HTML is one of them.
Okay.
Groovy Lock is another one.
Now, these HTML widgets would be different than the normal, basically notification center type widgets.
And most people use them for, really, really, really pretty clocks, weather.
They're more like Ubersitched type, type stuff where.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Truth is, most of the stuff I do with the lock screen is just clear away a lot of the crap. Like, I don't like the swipe here to unlock, or I turn off all the.
Do you turn off the big clock?
Turn off the big clock.
Turn
off the, all my buttons for pin unlock are streamlined.
Is there a way to make the inexplicably huge and non-removable date go away on Notification Center, by the way?
That's something in Springtomize.
Got it.
I think
okay.
it is.
Yeah, you can remove everything on Notification
There's also another
Center.
app called Hide Me, which, again, it just exposes a lot of turn off things that Apple insists that I look at.
Okay. Got it.
Nothing bothers me more than half my Notification Center being.
That's awesome.
It's Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. That's cool. Tuesday, November 27th.
Yes.
In 48 point thin font.
Yep.
Whether you want it or not. So let's move to another kind of sore point, which is the default keyboard.
This was supposed to be fixed. I mean,
yeah, you were supposed to be able to actually use third-party keyboards, and boy, I love third-party keyboards on Android, and I refuse to use any of them on iOS because they're all such a pain in the butt to use.
The areas where they get turned off makes no sense, and it seems like, and I don't, again, I have not played with iOS 8 enough to know this, but they just seem to switch back to the default, not just for, like I said, not just for passwords, but like they actually just get disabled across the board all the time for me.
Yeah,
run into that?
I haven't had a problem with them being disabled all the time. What I have a problem with is it always reverts back to the system keyboard, and for security reasons, it goes to the system keyboard on passwords and stuff, which is when, and this is the challenge, so the time I really need a keyboard with a lot of special characters that are easy to get to is the time I'm entering passwords. So... And I get the security concerns about using third-party keyboards on that, and that's fine.
But if 1Password came out with a keyboard,
well,
I trust them with my passwords already.
Either I trust 1Password or they're going to destroy me. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I kind of understand that, but yeah, it is a pain point. And
so, what are your solutions to this? I mean, what are your
Well, my first thing was, to solve the problem of using a third-party keyboard everywhere. And there's a couple plugins to enable you to use a third-party keyboard anywhere, including password fields. I think EX key is one of them. I can't remember because the truth is I don't like it. I just, third-party keyboard, I think the API is fundamentally limited from Apple's side. So again, like all jailbreaking in this era, I've decided, okay, I'm going to go with stock. Let's try to improve stock.
Okay. So start with stock.
So the first thing coming from Android that I had no idea that it had been this way the whole time until I came back to Apple was the letters on the keyboard are always capitals.
Yeah.
And I type a lot of passwords with upper and lower case, switching between them. And
Well, sometimes it's just nice to know what case you're about to type.
yeah, it would be, but it's
But
shocking.
That's what the that's what that little shift key in the lower right hand corner that is it's white sometimes and it's gray sometimes.
What's caps lock look like?
Blue, I think. Is that what that is?
Is that what it is?
Is it what it is? I don't know. So yeah, one of the colors tells you it's caps, and one of the colors tells you it's not caps. Isn't that obvious?
Oh yes.
Yeah, okay.
So
and then one of the colors tells you it's always caps, or something.
So finding there was a program called Showcase.
Okay.
Is just fantastic, which does nothing more than show lowercase characters if it's lowercase and uppercase if it's uppercase.
Okay, that's a great start.
Oh my God, yeah,
That's a great start.
I mean that's essential right there. That's the difference between me being productive on Apple and not.
Okay.
Another one that I really like is swipe selection. This is something that wasn't available. I could never find anything on Android like it. I had used it in the past, and basically you drag your finger over the keyboard and it moves the cursor.
Yeah, wasn't it first demoed on like a jailbroken iOS device long ago?
It was one of those things like, oh, Apple's probably going to buy this and immediately add it, but
Nope.
no.
So that's huge. Now, what about special characters? Is there any hope there?
Yeah, I used something called, gosh, what is it called? I probably
This is all we have here.
holder of my list of things.
Yeah, you can keep that if you want.
Swipe expander. Yes, it adds basically a secondary set of keys that you can kind of swipe up to activate. Something very familiar that I've had on various Android keyboards, and it's nice. It's not as perfect and smooth and flawless swipe than on some of the Android keyboards, but
like
it's nice to have.
SwiftKey. And this is also another thing I don't quite understand about SwiftKey specifically, because SwiftKey on Android has some fantastic keyboards and also has excellent special character support where, you swipe or you press down and you get special characters just right from the main keyboard.
That little menu pops up.
And yet their iOS keyboard does not have any of that.
And it sounds like Apple doesn't give them the tools to do those kind of menus. Like you have a certain area
right.
the keyboard can address.
Well,
so
but
their little secondary keys they could never do.
But the keyboard swipe actually has that. So that's the part I don't get.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And the last thing that I added, kind of just, I wasn't a huge fan of it to begin with, but haptic support.
Man, haptic feedback on a keyboard was something I really miss. And not being on Android. And it's going to, I think, be great if they bring the Taptic engine and Force Touch and all that to the next generation iOS devices.
No question. But I got to be honest, when I first installed it, I realized one thing. The vibrate motor in the iPhone is horrible.
Oh, really?
It's harsh. It's aggressive.
It's just not optimized for that at all.
Yeah, it's just...
Well, which is understandable. It's not. It's optimized to let you know something's happening. Yeah. So
it's one of those ones that I'm like, oh God, I'm immediately going to take it off. Until I did, and then it was just ridiculously.
Well, let's start talking about look and feel then. So you I think you changed the system font.
Yeah, there's an app called Bytes of Font.
Like bytes, like a computer byte.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And that basically system level. Replaces everything with a font of your choice.
Okay. So let's start.
My choice is Lato, which I think that's the one used in Slack.
Lato's a great font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first saw that in Slack, and I've always just kind of liked how it looked.
Yeah, it's just a really nice font.
It's a really good interface.
Got a bunch of different weights. It's just nice.
The one thing I've learned, and this would probably drive you crazy, knowing your preference in Kindle, it replaces Georgia.
Oh, it replaces Georgia, huh?
Yeah, I think that's how they do it in the background.
I like Georgia, but I'm not a Georgia slave. Like of the web standard font crowd, I definitely think that Georgia was one of my favorites. But
that's always my favorite book reading font.
But I like Lato. Don't get me wrong. So I mean, Lato's a huge fan. Lato's a free font, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good.
Yep. So that's one of those things. I said it, and I don't even think about it until I have a non-jailbroken device and kind of freak out. But
So, what other look and feel things are we looking at here?
A couple things. Some small things. One-hand wizard.
One-hand wizard.
One-hand wizard. So, the problem with the big iPhone, the 6 Plus, is it's big.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, and Apple included a what is the Apple thing called? Reachability?
Yeah, I think it's reachability. Yeah.
Which basically shrinks everything down to the half thing.
Yeah, never use it.
No, apps don't support it completely.
I think it's pretty well supported now, but yeah, I never use it.
But you're using a different interface at that point.
Right.
One-hand wizard, basically the same action triggers it, but instead it actually just shrinks down your entire display to the corner.
That's kind of unfortunate.
So, what do you mean?
Well, no, so it's like a corner. Is this like the Galaxy Note type style?
Kind of like that.
Like it makes it tiny?
Well, it changes. It doesn't change any relative sizing.
Okay, so it just scales it down. Using that.
Basically, you have a 6, now a 6.
Is that still usable? I mean,
is a 6 usable?
Okay, so it basically makes it about 6 size. We're not talking like it makes it
a quarter size or something.
Yeah,
no. It basically makes your phone a 6.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I could see that. That's good. What does it do with the rest of the space?
It's empty.
It's like black.
Black or wallpaper.
A wallpaper. Yeah. Because that's how reachability works. Is it leaves your wallpaper up there, which is kind of nice.
So that's nice. Another app I really like is Activator, which is kind of the tasker of the iPhone world. Though not as powerful, but it lets you assign actions and other things to buttons and various gestures and things. The one area where it's essential for me is the iPad Air 2, which got rid of the switch.
Oh.
The rotation lock switch.
Yeah, it did. It kind of blew me away when I finally picked mine up. It was like, wait, can't do the rotation lock. Now I have mine in a Zag Folio, so it's pretty much always landscape anyway. But that was a part that was always a little surprising.
I use that all the time. The iPad's the one thing I switch between landscape and portrait all the time.
Yeah.
So I set it Activator gesture, basically long press and volume up, turns that on and off.
Got it.
So it's a familiar place, it's a familiar gesture, and seems to work well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, what about you're a big fan of Flux, right?
Yes.
So why don't you explain what Flux is for anybody who hasn't used it on the desktop?
Flux is basically an app to, during as evening comes, it adjusts your screen to have more red, really.
Okay.
Which is supposed to be better on your eyes.
Doesn't keep you awake.
Keep you awake and everything.
Circadian rhythms and...
Exactly. So that app basically works the same way on the phone. And again, it's one of those things you install and forget you have it installed because... It just works. It just kind of gently warms the screen at night.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of nice. And now with the Jailbreak, you can get it on the phone.
Yep.
That's kind of good.
Definitely helps because again, I'm always got a device in front of me.
Well, yeah, and you're like reading in bed and stuff like that. Like using it as a. Does it help? I mean, do you think it helps?
Huge.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the reason why I've basically kind of gone to Kindle, no backlight, all that. To try to avoid the kind of screen time right before bedtime.
Yep.
Bug in the human system. Well, okay, so we got about a minute left here. What can you think of anything that we've missed?
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, you having fun? Fun with your Jailbreak? Now, okay, let's talk about the big caveat. I think, which is the reason I'm not currently jailbroken is if you weren't on 8.1. There's currently no jailbreak for you, and we're up to 8.3 now, which is required for the watch, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In some ways, I'm kind of okay that the watch may not be shipping right away.
You're just waiting. You're hoping they're gonna kick out the next jailbreak.
Yeah. Now, 8.2 came out, and for whatever reason, I suspect it was because everyone knew 8.3 was coming with the watch. Nobody released a jailbreak for that.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's what they'll do. They'll hold back a fix knowing that Apple's going to put a patch out and then they can...
Well, and fix is a code word for exploit.
Exactly.
I mean, like we've got this exploit that we're going to hold out for. And so you are, I mean, in a sense, you're exploiting a security hole in your phone that other people can exploit because it's obviously not a secret, but in the end, I mean, you don't feel this is any more dangerous than rooting your Android phone?
No, okay. No, not at all. So 8.3 came out. That supposedly fixed a ton of exploits.
Cool.
So there isn't there may be one in work. We'll obviously won't know till then. I suspect that everyone is waiting for the watch to actually hit the market, because Apple will almost certainly probably push out an 8.3.1
Cool.
to fix bugs, and hopefully we'll get a jailbreak soon after that, because when a watch is sitting on my desk, I'm probably going to switch to 8.3.
No, that's good. That's good. Well, cool. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for this week.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we'll chat again next week and pick a new topic.
Sounds good. Talk to you then.
Awesome.
See ya.
See ya.